We're going to continue with this topic of raising up leaders, choosing the right ones. In my experience in the translocal ministry, where I have advised and counseled churches, I've seen that so often where there have been problems in a church, it can be pointed back to leadership. The people in the team, the tensions in the team, and often it's about maybe appointing the wrong person for the wrong task, or else that there's a wrong person working within the team, and that has caused conflicts and tensions. And that's why we're dealing with a very, very important topic here, this topic that we choose the right people before we appoint them. And the last time I spoke about the fact that it's important to look at the characteristics of the person. How is the person that we want to appoint in their character? Are they prepared to be teachable? Are they open to correction, etc.? I also asked what is their attitude to authority? Very important. And then thirdly today, what is very important as we continue, it's important that we have people who are servant-hearted. We cannot just have people that are there for the title, but they need to be people who are prepared to give their hearts to the work. When we appoint them, or maybe we don't appoint them, and how they respond to that, they still have the right attitude because they want to serve. They have servant hearts and want to serve God in His kingdom. People with this attitude you can work well with and work effectively with. And it's important that those that we appoint have good motives. It's also important that we have people that are anointed. When we started the church in Dresden, when we started here in the church in Dresden, the characteristic of faithfulness had the highest priority. It was the person who was faithful but sometimes didn't have the anointing for the task. But it was someone who gave all their energy and worked hard at the task. But that spiritual side, the anointing, was missing. And what do I mean by that? I meant they did the task but they didn't release life. I did a video clip on this in a series where it's about recognizing authority, where we see people releasing life. And for this task we need both. We need people who release life, but people who are faithful. People who are faithful on their own, we just can't work just with that. We need both things. Emotional maturity. We need people who aren't just, or let's say, we need people who do not cause conflicts. We need people who resolve conflicts. And often that has to do with emotional maturity. People who battle with certain tasks is because they have problems with this area. People with a high emotional maturity can push through, but people who are immature may have a problem with the team or with their people. They don't cope. And that's why it's so important here that we are careful and that we watch, that we appoint people that are emotionally mature enough for the task that we are wanting to appoint them to. And then chemistry. Is the chemistry right? We see in Mark 3:13-15. Later, Jesus went up onto a mountain and called those he wanted to be with him. They came to him. He chose 12 of them to accompany him all the time and called them apostles. He wanted to send them out to preach and cast out demons with authority. He He chose people to be with him. I find that an amazing thing. Jesus wanted to share his life with them, journey with them, share with them. We see Paul did that as well later on in his life. And we see what is important with Jesus. He had people that he wanted to be with him. I want people with me as well who have potential to also create that surroundings where there's peace, we have a certain chemistry, where it's fun to be with them, to spend time with them. I think also when it's about appointing someone, that we have a prophetic confirmation. Every time we meet someone, we must not trust our first impression. Sometimes it can be right, but it's not always the case. We just need that hint from the Lord, that confirmation, prophetic confirmation from the Lord. Because sometimes what we see as an first impression, we may not understand, but through a prophetic word we can understand what is happening. When I met our elder, the first elder we appointed, the first time we sat together in his lounge, the Lord said to me, "This is the one you are to appoint." And I was totally surprised, but I realized what God had said was the absolute perfect decision for the church, and it was right. And how is it with personality? Character is the one thing, but what about personality? I enjoy working with people who are initiators, who are intensive, have an intensity, they're radical about things. And sometimes we need to see how we work with these personalities, but this intensity they're often people that you just want in your team because they have that intensity in the way they work within the team. And we need that because that brings things into motion, that brings us into movement. Initiative is also something we all need in our teams. And of course, it's important to have people that have that. In Isaiah 11, we see the following: the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of knowledge. His judgment will not be based on externals. Jesus didn't look on the outward. He's the one that looked deeper. He looked into the hearts. He looked deeper. And my question to you today: what areas have you been neglecting? If you look through this little list that I've given you, what have you neglected? What would help you to make a good appointment for the future? Write these things down. Note them so that you can recognize these things when you are wanting to appoint. And if you've made a mistake, it's very important that you confront it, that you confront those people. If there are problems being caused, that you bring correction, that you do it with love, that you provide that opportunity for the person to turn around and do it differently. And if they don't, it's important that you remove this person from your team, because that will also influence your team and determine how effective you are. That's why it's so important that you appoint the right people.